right, good afternoon, everybody. So, panelists, I have not had to be a reporter calling up the big tech companies and trying to get them to answer questions in 6, 7 years. So, tell me, what's changed?
Recently? Nothing.
In the last 6, 7 years?
Yeah, how is covering big tech different than it? I mean, you've all been, in one way or another on the beat long enough to have a sense of what's this era of covering big tech? How's it different?
I think the AI era has made the story much more about the actual technology, whereas I think for a period there, it was not really about tech at all. It was about the culture of tech and, sort of broader cultural issues, politics, media. And now it's like, what is that? What are these companies actually building? AI, quantum computing, et cetera. And I think it's a nice change. I think it's been fun.
Yeah, I agree with that. I feel like there was a period where the relationship got extremely adversarial. And I think that now with the renewed focus, like Reed said, on the technology, there's an opportunity to actually be working with comms people and engaging in a more wholehearted way. So that's kind of refreshing.
Yeah, I think the tech took a back seat to the politics, and the tech is actually really interesting now. So the politics is also very interesting. So don't.
I thought we were going to disagree with each other.
Yeah, I don't think we'll disagree on this. But yeah, I would say the tech is interesting, and we'll get into this, but the difference, I would say the main difference from 6 to 7 years ago is that all the big tech companies now think they can circumvent a lot of us in the traditional press by just going to YouTubers. So that is, I would say, been one of, if we're talking about the media relationship with the comms people, that's probably been the biggest change beyond the tech and the politics.
And what about, I mean, maybe you just gestured at this a little bit, but what about the people who lead these companies and how they think about the media and what they want out of their interactions with the media? Is that different at all? How than it was a few years ago? I mean, just like Zuckerberg in particular seems to have gone through some kind of evolution in how he thinks about the media and his own portrayal in the media.
Well, everybody wants to say, they all say, oh, we love the YouTubers and we want to do the podcasts and the alternative press. But then when it comes down to it, when they're doing an important story, they always go to the mainstream media. They always, it just seems like they all still see these brands that they trash talk all day as very important.
Except Apple. I would say that you can't be too monolithic, but if we're just talking about the Mag 7, if you want to call that big tech, they all pretty much engage with the traditional press still. The CEOs, especially if they're founders, don't really. Will knock on wood, will happen again, and I do an annual interview with Zuckerberg, but otherwise he only talks to influencers. And Sundar will do press. He just did our podcast, but Apple is the least accessible out of all of them. And that's been the case for a while. But yeah, I would say we can't, I just don't want to paint it as a monolith, but I would say it's still fair to say that in aggregate, big tech, I think, feels like they can ignore us more than they could 6 to 7 years ago.
Feels like they can ignore us, the us being
press, like non-influencer media.
Gotcha. Okay. And what about the Trump era, the way that these companies have positioned themselves since November? Does that affect your ability to talk to the people you want to talk to, how they treat you?
I mean, I think that in general, it's a really different era of the tech industry. And just to pivot from your question kind of slightly, I think it's actually a much more honest era in some ways. There was a lot of obfuscation before, mostly I think catering to employees, but to kind of hide what these companies were actually doing. I remember a criticism that Facebook would get a lot was that they put profits over people. And it was yes, it's a for-profit company. The fact that we even thought that was something they might not do was kind of wild. And I think now they're much more upfront and willing to do whatever it takes to get that government contract. And there's actually very little resistance. So we're in a different time, and it's quite interesting to cover.
Post vibe shift. I don't know how many times the phrase vibe shift has been uttered on the stage today, but it sounds like what you're talking about.
Yeah, I feel like the first Trump administration, the tech CEOs were very much captured by their employees. So the power dynamic was very bottoms up. And now it's like the tech CEOs are captured by Trump. And so it's everything's moved very top down. And it does feel like that whole dynamic with, I mean, you covered a lot of this, like back in that era, like the employee activism era is over.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh my gosh. I think about the headlines that I wrote at that time. It was like, Apple will never be the same. It's like, no, it's definitely the same. Like very little has changed. I think we were all pretty like rosy eyed about how like much was going to change because employees had that much power. And then the market changed. The activists were largely fired. Like, I think they really clamped down when the economy allowed for it, and employees aren't speaking out like that in this era.
Yeah, it's like, I mean, in 2016, Sergey Brin was protesting at SFO the Muslim travel ban, right? What happened this year? He's sitting behind Trump at the inauguration. Trump is literally trying to keep foreign students out of this country. None of them are saying anything. The tech CEOs, like, they're just businesses now. Like, I feel like it's like the new Wall Street in a sense. Like in 2016, I think they were still hanging on to these morals that maybe were trying to be more than the business. And now it's like fully given in to the fact that they're business. And that's fine. Just like be consistent.
Well, I think also the big difference is, I mean, well, there's some similarities, but like the oxygen is still being sucked out of the room from Washington, right? I mean, if you look at the broader, maybe not as much as it was in 2016, but like there's definitely, and that is the center of the story. That's what people are, really watching right now. So we're contending with that, I think.
I also wonder what it says about these companies and where they are in their life cycle that they don't feel the need to be seen, I guess, by consumers as, we are all doing good in the world. We are, businesses that put people over profits.
Yeah, I mean, I think also like we were in this era where every time something happened, politically speaking, every CEO, every company felt like they needed to put out a statement. But I think when you talk to a lot of these people in positions of power, they felt like what they got for that was just more criticism, and actually staying silent or having a more transactional relationship with this administration is like a much better position for them politically than trying to cater and then being held to some standard that they couldn't uphold.
It's more profitable. And when
For
you
sure.
have government contracts, I mean, when Google rolled back all its DI stuff, the explanation they gave employees was we're a government contractor. So these companies are just now beholden to the government. And that's, again, I'm not saying this is a judgment, it's just that's what it is. And they're also governments in their own regard in terms of how powerful they are. Like Google is a nation state. Like it's more than a company, but it's also a government contractor. And that's just like a tension that the company's dealing with.
And when you talk to employees at these companies and be like, hey, I mean, this feels like it would have been a major protest before. Are you guys not upset that you're trying to get this government contract that previously was like why the Google walkout happened or whatever? They're like, well, they just have to play the game. Like, I think even employees have more of like, I don't know if you call it a cynical understanding or a realistic understanding, but they're just like, this is what it is. Like, this is the world we live in. Of course, there are some people who feel completely different, but I think even they have seen the cost perhaps for speaking out. Like, we're not in an environment where it is safe to do that. I think about even like my early tech jobs where we would have all hands meetings and, interns would speak really intensely to the CEO. Like people just felt very empowered to kind of grill their executives. I think, again, like speaking to that kind of vibe shift, like it's just not, I think it's much more top down, much more hierarchical now.
I thought it was a real before and after moment the other day when Meta announced that it was making products for the military with Anduril and Zuckerberg and Lucky posed together.
Time heals all wounds, right?
Yeah. I mean, that just would have been, the Drudge Alert headline of all, it would have been, straight to the ramparts.
Yeah. Now it's just like another day.
So speaking of employees, so they're not as politically activated. They can live with some stuff that they couldn't live with before. But one thing about them being as politically activated as they were is it made them very maybe useful sources in ways. They were so. Tell me, what's it? How has that changed the sourcing part of how you do your jobs, and how do you these are companies that are very very good at and very aggressive about controlling comms and doing witch hunts to do
They try.
leak hunts.
They try.
Yeah,
I would say it varies in success, but yeah, they try.
Alex here is the master of the company sends out memos asking people not to leak, according to leak memo.
That's my
headline,
favorite
which
one.
everybody loves.
I don't know. What do you guys think about that, though? Like finding sources in these days?
I think it's definitely easier when people have like a true axe to grind, I think, and it's about like a big issue they care about. If now it's like, because we were saying earlier, it's about the technology. It's like you really are asking them to like violate an NDA to talk about like what a company's building, and it's a much more difficult like argument to make to people. Like, you should talk to me about this. But I think if it comes from like a genuine place of curiosity, like I'm just trying to understand this in a in an earnest way. I think that goes a long way.
Yeah, I would agree. I think it's more difficult in certain ways, but it also, like, the coverage, I think, has the opportunity to just be better, because anytime someone has an axe to grind, it's like tricky what story they want to tell and what access they're giving you to certain information. So, yeah, I think it's an interesting time. I don't know. I personally felt like kind of conflicted after that era of employee activism, because I really did feel like, what are we actually offering people when we ask them to like speak out, sometimes on the record, about their own employer? Like, it felt like they were taking this absolutely enormous risk, and a lot of them, lost their jobs in the wake of that, and not much actually changed. And so I think it's, for me personally, been a good moment to just kind of think through the coverage, the angle, what we're actually doing, and being really honest with people about what they're risking when they talk to us, and what we're going to do to protect them.
A thing I can sympathize with for big tech comms people is like it's a huge employee base. It's basically like Google is like 14 companies in one. So to try to say, like, synthesize, here's how employees at X big tech company feel about Y, it's very difficult. I would say it's next to impossible unless you get like company level like employee sentiment analysis or something that the company's done. Like, it's impossible. So it's actually, I don't know, the longer you do this, I feel like the more you appreciate trying to thread together. Like, you don't want to just have people who have an axe to grind. You want to have like upper management and their perspective, and usually the two are very different, and your job as a journalist should be to like show the two and the tension between the two. And those are much more interesting stories to me than just like, I found 10 random employees in some division of Meta.
5 angriest comments on Slack.
Right,
Whatever.
which is like, it's easy to do
What
when
the
it's
ERGs say.
yeah.
So tell me, is the tech beat now just an AI beat? Is that everybody's just an AI reporter? That's the only thing that matters?
Yeah, we were politics reporters and now we're AI reporters.
Definitely. Well, I had a politics scoop on Friday, but it was also kind of about AI. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's everything. It's like it's I feel like it's, you hiring like an AI reporter these days is going to be thought of as like an internet reporter in the early 2000s. It's like,
I think we're already there. I think we've
already
already moved past like I cover AI. Like, that's kind of a silly thing to say. It's like it's in everything, and it's like, really, there's all these aspects of AI that we cover, right? We're not actually covering AI, so to speak.
it's what they're all freaking out about. They're freaking out about OpenAI. They're freaking about the idea that like a startup can now maybe like disintermediate their relationship with their users. So that's why everyone is freaking out. That's where the story is. It's AI. Yeah.
Another thing we touched on a little bit is the go direct. This this idea that started to become kind of trendy, a catchphrase in the tech industry. I don't remember who it was who first started using that phrase, but basically encouraging tech companies, tech founders to own their own communication channels and their own communication with the consumer. And it feels like that's actually made some progress. There was a while where we were all kind of laughing about, Andreessen Horowitz claiming that they were going to start a new publication that they never actually started. But I don't know. What do you think? Is GoDirect starting to become an actual thing, or are these, kind of tech industries owned and operated press outlets actually finding success?
Well, what I was always confused about what that actually meant, because I thought it was like you should talk to the reporters directly, and then it was like it turned into actually, well, we'll just have a PR firm, try to coach you through talking to reporters directly, which just seems like PR. So,
I mean, it's like the YouTube. I think of it as going to like a YouTuber who is terrified of not getting invited to your developer event next year, and will pre-submit their questions, which is a very real thing that is happening, where like these big tech CEOs literally have everything pre-done. It's like, this is all so fake. And it works, and I think it makes the comms people feel like it's a win-win because they get they get them out there, but it's hollow. Like no one and you look at the YouTube comments of these interviews, like the audience sees straight through it. They see that this is all like fake. And so I think the bloom is starting to come off the rose a little bit on it. I actually do. I think we're going to start seeing more CEOs go to press that can actually ask hard questions. I hope so, but I just feel it in like the way that the audience is reacting to it. But maybe that's just me.
You think they're going to come crawling back to us? All right, we've got our first prediction of the afternoon. Well, since we're on the topic of predictions, give me a storyline that is getting less attention now than it's going to be, say, 3 months from now, 6 months from now. Who's got one?
Okay, I'll go first. So, I think that you're going to see all these big tech companies, the big advances that they made with AI and other areas were from like going and poaching academics who did amazing research that was ultimately government funded in academia mostly. I think the biggest story that people the biggest thing the Trump administration is doing for the tech industry right now, or in regards to the tech industry, is like totally disrupting the way government funded research happens, and that's what replenishes these, especially these big tech firms and like VC and startups too. And I think down the road that's going to be a big problem for these companies. You won't see as much innovation, the top of the funnel innovation.
Oh, interesting one.
That's a good one. This is really not an undercovered storyline, but it's just the one that I'm like thinking about right now. We've at Wired been like full on with all of the Elon Musk and Doge coverage. Now Elon seems to be stepping back from government. And so I'm quite interested in like, what are his companies going to be doing over the next few months, especially because it's not just him, it's a lot of people who he kind of put in various positions, or, people connected with him who were in various positions in government who are now going back to the private sector. And so I think that kind of switch will be quite interesting to watch.
I feel like because of just how insane everything is, we've all forgotten that TikTok is operating illegally in the United States. Not only are they operating illegally, every company that is hosting them in the United States is on the hook even for Apple, company-ending fines. That the only reason they're doing this is because the AG has said that Trump will not prosecute them. That is bananas. And the fact that no big tech CEO that is doing this has been asked about this by an analyst. They're not doing press interviews. Tim Cook's not talking to the press that would have asked this. The fact that they haven't been asked, how are you feeling about the risk of Trump having this over your head, this sword of Damocles that you've been hosting TikTok illegally? It's wild. I just want to see what happens.
All right. Alex, Zoe, Reed, thank you very much.
Thanks,
everybody.